97. Growing up in Shanghai, Nelson lived in an extended family compound in the German concession. He loved the frequent family trips to his grandfather's ancestral home in the ancient water town of Nanshan, a 2-day journey from Shanghai. Due to the Japanese invasion of Shanghai, his family was forced to flee China in October 1938 to Judema via Marseille. Then in 1939, they decided to settle in New York City, where Nelson attended Riverdale Country School. In 1942, he enrolled at MIT and under a wartime schedule, graduated in 1945 with a degree in chemical engineering. After working briefly in the field, in 1946 he began a long and distinguished career in commodities futures research and trading, a relatively obscure field at the time. In 1954, he married Edith Shi in New York City. Their daughter Phyllis was born in 1957, and Edmund in 1958, prompting a move to Scarsdale. There, Edith and Nelson welcomed their second son, Lawrence, born in 1965. In 1963, Nelson joined Hayden Stone, and the firm was consolidated in 1970 as Kogan Berlin, Weil and Levitt, CBWL, Hayden Stone. He worked in some of the iconic office buildings in New York City, the GM building, and then for many years in the World Trade Center, making the long daily commutes to Westchester and later to Darien, Connecticut. In 1980, he became president of Hayden Commodity Corporation and moved the business to Greenwich, Connecticut, to be closer to home. Finally, in 1986, he established Chang Management, a futures venture, officially retiring in 1993. In the mid-1980s, Nelson and Edith spent winters in San Francisco Bay to be close to their 3 children who were all in California at the time. Then, in 1989, they made the move permanent, settling in Lafayette, California. They enjoyed urban living in San Francisco for a decade, residing first in Nob Hill, then Russian Hill, and finally settled in their current home at the V in Palo Alto in 2008. Nelson loved being by the water. He enjoyed sailing on Long Island Sound on his Norwegian Yingling sailboat, coastal and inland cruises around the world, and even built and sailed model boats from Central Park to Spreckles Lake. He and Edith were dedicated amateur ballroom dancers and had their Hollywood moment appearing as extras in the Shanghai nightclub scene filmed at Filoli Estate in the Joy Luck Club. He was a hobbyist and a skilled craftsperson. In retirement, Nelson and Edith continued to enjoy traveling with friends and family and look forward to annual reunions in Monterey, Honolulu, and Vancouver. In the late 1980s, he took up painting. They loved their community at the V, making many friends and engaging in activities such as ceramics, nursing a community flower garden, and even serving on the culinary committee. One of his proudest achievements was the multi-year effort to revitalize and expand the cultural significance of his beloved Nanshan homestead, which has now become a national landmark in China. Nelson blended his engineering and analytical mind with a love of nature and a keen and wry wit. He was always patient and supportive of his children, a wonderful and loving role model. He will be dearly missed by all his friends and extended family. So Gugu and Jia wrote that obituary, and we'll publish it, and so people can know about that, and I'll put it in the V. So I thought what I'd do is I'd just say a few more words for everyone here, and to Dad. Dad, we're very sad to be here. At the same time, we find solace knowing you had 97 years with us, and as Gugu and Jia have written, those were rich years full of personal and professional accomplishment, of travel, good memories, good food, good Chinese food, and lots of love from your friends and your family. We're also consoled, and more than that, we're grateful that 66 of those years were spent being a loving husband to Mom, and 63 of those years were devoted to being a wonderful father to Jia, Gugu, and me, a father-in-law to Ricardo, to Michelle and Susan, and a grandfather to Alexander, Stephen, and Harrison. You'll always be in our memories, and the things you taught us, both by your example and by your words, and I have to admit, even your Confucian lectures, guide us every day. You taught us not to be afraid to think unconventionally, to work hard to achieve the things that you felt we were capable of, to preserve our integrity and our reputations, and to be always forward-looking. Those ideas will stay with us, and hopefully they'll get passed down to Stephen and Harrison and Alexander and generations after them. We know how you cherished your heritage and the past. After all, you collected Chinese coins for many years and spent all this time working in the family history. But at the same time, you were firmly focused on the future, thinking of what was next on the schedule, planning the next trip, what to do on our next trip, developing long-term plans, never looking back at bad investments, always looking for the next good one. So we love you and we miss you. And your memory and the things you taught us kids will always stay with us. But at the same time, we'll always resolve to move forward because that's how you appreciated life yourself. We love you very much. So, Joe, Digu, or anyone else, do you have anything you want to say? No, I can try to increase the volume a little bit.
Viewers, can you hear me? I'm using regular
Yeah,
microphone.
I'm going to turn this Joe a little bit so Jamal can see me.
I'm on. Can you hear me? Ewan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Rose, Mariel,
Yes.
and Alan, I think. Alan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes.
And who else is there? Mariel, right? Hi, Alan. Come into the screen, Alan. Hi, Alan. You're like an extended family to us.
Thank
Is
you.
anyone else that I'm missing?
Blessy was supposed to come.
Leslie, somewhere there?
No.
No, she wasn't able to come.
I want to thank the three of you so much for coming in such difficult circumstances and making 200% effort. You're like an extended family. And I'm not going to say much for two reasons. One is I was going to wake up at a reasonable hour today and prepare a few remarks. And unfortunately, I slept till about 2 in the afternoon and woke up and then went back to sleep. Ricardo finally woke me up at 4:30. And that's not just because I'm a night creature, but unfortunately the virus that took you away, Dad, which maybe was a blessing in disguise because it took you very quickly with almost no distress, unfortunately grabbed me too. Didn't think it would get me, but it got me too, and some of the caregivers. So as a result, when I should have been preparing to say something to you, I was sleeping. And secondly, my voice and my voice is quite hoarse from the virus, and also I have a very stuffed nose, which is unusual. So I'm sorry that I'm going to just say a few words. And secondly, as importantly, when it's all safe to get together, maybe some of us will have to be remote, we're going to have a little celebration of your life, which is not very Chinese, but I don't know, in the Philippines, it's not just a time to mourn, but to celebrate, be happy for what the person whom you've lost has left you and created in you. And so we'll have a celebration, and hopefully all of us will be healthy and able to attend, maybe even in person. So there's a lot more to say. There are a lot of stories to tell, and I'm saving them up. I think our loved caregivers here, we want you to save your stories too. Mostly good ones, but you can tell some funny ones too, okay? So don't even some of the notes that my father wrote you, please say whatever you want. If it's not too painful for you. You were so much a part of his life in the last, really very brief, 6 months. Some of you started, Blessy and Roselle started well before then, but most of you did not meet my father until March for Mariel and Zenaida Rollins, and then May for the rest of you. Only 7 months, but it made such a huge difference to him. And sorry you didn't see him when he was in a more normal state, but you could see flashes of his personality. And he's so grateful for you. So we want you to be part of the celebrations. So save your stories. Mac and cheese will be served. Also, udon, perhaps donuts, and we'll try to put some more healthy foods in. If any of you have a suggestion, maybe we'll have you bring some Filipino food too. So I'm not going to say goodbye, Dad, really, because well, my one regret is that I left a little too early. But you seem stable, and you're not in distress. I knew you were sick. It was stupid. We didn't realize that. You thought it might be COVID-19, but you seem stable, and I knew you're in such good hands with the caregivers that I felt I could leave you. And the only difference is I'm sorry I wasn't there to take you to the hospital. But but I think it was only a few hours that you were really by yourself, and Mom and the caregivers went over, and you already had been sedated at the suggestion of Dr. Daniel Rogan, marvelous ER. And we're going to thank him too. And your condition was not very good already; it's quite dire. And your wishes were very clear. You were such a planner. 2013, even earlier, you and Mom had done a lot of planning about your medical treatment, it's only a few hours, maybe an hour, hour and a half, that you feel like you're by yourself, and that's only because of the coronavirus. Mom couldn't go in, and the caregivers again that just don't know how to thank you. The risk to you, the stress. No one likes being in an emergency room. Oh, without any hesitation, I was working that night, offered to go over and to even accompany, go in if possible. So I think that you're probably only by yourself and conscious for an hour, hour and a half, and then you were sedated and fell asleep. And I'm sorry that Mom, don't feel bad. When you visit Dad, he was sleeping and resting, lightly sedated. So I'm sorry that he didn't respond to you, but I think you should have peace of mind. He was resting and just gradually slipped away. No distress at all. So saying goodbye and having some last words or last conversations would have been really meaningful. But on the other hand, Dad, your dementia was getting worse. And so probably when we start a conversation, you'd say, take me to the bathroom or take me to bed. So it's just very brief discussions anyhow. And I think what we didn't have a chance to say, we knew already. And left behind in me, for better or worse, many of your traits. I think people say, take after you. When I went back to the V, to your apartment, I saw some of the files that you still had there. You took away most early on as you were moving out, and I saw how organized you were. You loved filing things away. Incredible years, very organized, very systematic. So I love to file things away also. So I hope I've taken some good traits from you. You lived a great long life. So I feel very sad, but after sadness is over, I feel very happy. And again, Mom, don't be too sad. This is probably about a blessing in disguise. Sue, Audie, Alexander lost Jean, another grandparent, and she had been ailing for a while. And in the end, Sue said it was very peaceful like that, just slipped away, was sedated. So although the virus is a horrible thing, and we couldn't be there with you, Dad, we know in the end it was very fast and non-stressful for you. So much more to say. Again, I want to thank so much Ewan also for your coming. You really didn't have to do that. The virus makes this extraordinary. It's very painful to be using Zoom when we should all be together and hugging each other. But we will have a time together, and I want Rose, Alan, Mariel, I want you to know how much you did for my father and for my family. They've learned a lot about caregivers and caregiving from you, and don't know how you pour so much of your, not just your energy, but your hearts into helping someone like my father. And I think, despite sometimes his, or frequently towards the last 3 months, is being impatient and difficult. I think actually he had a lot of affection for you, and sometimes hopefully you knew that too. And you know, in some ways he looked to you all more than to the family. Because we'd say, I always remember him saying, "Hello, hello, hello, hello," in a kind of a little sad, weak but clear way. And then sometimes I would go over, and a few times he said, "No, no, caregivers, caregivers." So thank you so much. Be sad, but also please be happy in knowing how much you've done for my father and my family. And lots of stories to go
Yeah,
Thanks, Chang.
yeah. Mom, I just want to echo what Ed, we have a celebration of Dad's life, and we deal with so many wonderful stories. We all have a varied list of memories of us all being together, growing up. I think some of the photos reflect some of the great times that we had, and I'd like to share those with everyone in the future when we can. Label. But first, one thing, I was just thinking a little bit about what the boss said. Our dad had always had planted one foot in his Chinese heritage and had the other foot moving forward in his life in America. So I wanted to read a poem which you might be familiar with by the 8th century Chang Dynasty poet named Li Bai. And this is called A Quiet Night Thought. Beside my bed, a pool of light. Is it hoarfrost on the ground? I lift my eyes and see the moon, bend my head and think of home. So that very short poem, I think, evokes Li Bai's wanderings, evokes his thoughts of his home as he wandered for many years through the Yangtze Valley. And this reminds me of Dad a little bit because he always viewed his experiences in America through the lessons he had learned growing up in China and through Chinese culture, Chinese philosophy, and even Confucian thought. So for example, the emphasis he always placed on the importance of the extended family, the love within the family, the love of the parents for their children and for the children of their parents, and also the virtues of honesty, loyalty to his family, friends, respect for societal norms. All those things that he not only said but practiced throughout every day of his life. But at the same time, as Bob alluded to, he was very American. He was embraced our American ideals of individual initiative and consistent hard work, which believed professional and personal achievements, of which he had many. And also, for example, in the unflinching support he had for the different directions that his 3 children took. One of them a successful human rights attorney, another one an architect, another one involved in finance. Dad was always encouraging of the different paths and interests that we had. Never put any pressure on us, going in a direction that we weren't comfortable with. So that's one facet of Dad's life that I always would marvel at, blending of the traditional and the modern, guiding his life's moves, and the joy and the appreciation that his family experienced from all of these life lessons that he passed down to us. So Mom, Dad's always going to be in our thoughts. We miss him dearly. We look forward to continuing our celebration of his life in the future with you. Love from all of us here in Boston.
Thanks to you.
Well, I think Susan would like to read a little poem.
Please do.
That's okay. I just thought we had so many wonderful travels with Dad and so many adventures. And
Tell her to speak loudly.
so many amazing adventures with the family. I just wanted to read the poem Ithaca by poet Constantine Ivaki. As you set out for Ithaca, hope the voyage is a long one, full of adventure, full of discovery, Lystragonians and Cyclops, angry Poseidon. Don't be afraid of them. You'll never find things like that on your way as long as you keep your thoughts raised high. As long as a rare excitement stirs your spirit and your body. Lystragonians and Cyclops, wild Poseidon, you won't encounter them unless you bring them along inside your soul. Unless your soul sets them up in front of you. May there be many a summer morning when, with what pleasure, what joy, you come into harbors seen for the first time. May you stop at Phoenician trading stations to buy fine things, mother of pearl and coral, amber and ebony, sensual perfume of every kind, as many sensual perfumes as you can. And may you visit many Egyptian cities, gather stores of knowledge from their scholars. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you are destined for. But do not hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years. You are old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you have gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you the marvelous journey. Without her, you would not have set out. She has nothing left to give you now. And if you find her poor, Ithaca won't have fooled you. Wise as you will have become, so full of experience, you will have understood by then what these
Thanks. Could you, if you could, can you send us the poems so we can print them out?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll show you this. I don't know if you saw the beautiful spray that you brought in.
Yeah, that's actually from our me and Yao, our whole family.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Can you see? Do you want a better picture? I'll well, unfortunately, I have it on a computer as opposed to a laptop, so. I can't.
Ewan, thank you so much.
That's all we can show.
You're welcome.
It's a beautiful spread. Mom, can you look at that?
That's okay.
Yeah, there it is. So,
Beautiful, thank you. We didn't really want any flowers, but thank you so much.
Take home.
I just want to say something for the caregivers. Leslie, Rose, Mariam, and Ewan's mother. Actually, I spent my very first night in China in 1980. China was extremely poor then. Had running water in the cities, and electricity, but they're using burning coal. So I spent my first several nights actually before I went to the language school where I was enrolling to study Chinese. So we go back a long way. Your mother eventually brought your mom to the United States, right?
Yes.
She lived to a very ripe old age. So we have a long history. And
I remember. I met you in
incredible.
Beijing, 1980.
Yeah, it was very difficult circumstances. I mean, there was food, but cooking on coal stoves and your mom and your sister-in-law killed a chicken to show me a fresh chicken. They could get that. I was horrified, but I could barely eat it. But so thank you so much for coming. Go back a long way with my parents.
I want to thank everyone for being here. So Dad and your Karen pointing you on today. So I'm sorry everyone. I'm sorry everyone couldn't be here in person. But I hope the Zoom allowed you to join just as well. And I know you're all here absolutely in spirit. So.
Very nice, Bob. Thank you very much.
Should
we
we?
got to see the beautiful, glad to see family and friends and see mom. So thank you for putting that together. It worked out very well.
Can I read? Sorry, Rose, do you mind reading something from our big text group? Do you want to read it?
Yes,
Last
please.
thinking from last time, and Blessy wrote something too. Do you mind if I read those?
Yeah, yeah. All the, not at all, please. I can accept.
Not everyone will see them. And do you mind if I read it?
Yes, I don't
Okay.
mind.
Okay.
Louder, cannot hear.
I'm reading from a big text group we have with all the kickers and my brothers. Since I think yesterday Rose said, yes, for the last time, I'm going to throw him a kiss just even seeing his casket. It's worth the feeling. I remember the early morning of the last day he was at the Arrowhead house. He was always nice to me. I'm not sure about that, Rose, but most of the time. And he knew my name. Maybe sometimes. He knew you for sure, though. I was teasing him and tickling him. I did not stop kissing his forehead, of course with my mask on. Not until I heard him laughing like a heavenly laugh. He was happy, just being happy, until he said he gives up and he went back to sleep. And the next time he woke up, his mood suddenly has changed. He asked about my hours. What hours do you work? What are your hours? And he fired me instantly. I guess because you didn't give an answer that made sense to him. But then again, he forgot shortly afterwards that he fired me, and back to his sweetness factor again. I did not expect that it was my last happy moment with him, and only see an empty bed, and would only see an empty bed the next time I arrived at Arrowhead House. I'm grateful that I was privileged to be a part of him. Thank you, Rosette. Says so much for us. And then something from Leslie. Can I read that too?
It's a little bit. It's a little bit too
Perfect.
emotional. That's my feelings.
Okay.
Leslie, do you want to?
Chang, what you'd like to read it for Blessy? Yeah.
Is it okay, Leslie? Is Leslie there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Leslie is part of something that you sent, I think, just to me, talking about how. If you don't mind, I'm going to write it because it's very. We want to answer some of your. I was embarrassed to your family that we were not able to protect your dad from getting this nasty disease, despite all the strict precautions that we put in place. It pains me to know that it must come from one of us. I'm very sad about that, and there's no way of knowing really. We failed him in a way. We failed Mrs. Chang and the family. Let's see here, as the reader, I'm going to take reader's liberty and say, no, you didn't. Of course you didn't. This was a risk we knew, and we know that however he got it, and who knows, maybe I gave it to him. Probably not, because I got my symptoms later. You all were trying so hard, so careful. Please don't feel that way at all. None of you. You should only think we knew there was always a risk. We all developed the safety protocols together. This virus is so asymptomatic. It was all around, and he was so much better off with you and your care and the others than being in the V or being in assisted living, for example. So please, don't feel bad at all. Don't let it pain you. This was fate, and sometimes you can't beat fate. We try your best. And again, it may be a blessing in disguise how quickly he went. It would have been worse if he had a stroke. I'm not just consoling myself, but you all know about taking care of elderly with strokes, long, drawn-out, painful process. You didn't fail him at all. You didn't fail us or the family. To the contrary, you made a huge difference in his life. And I know he certainly had affection, true affection for you. And back to your message. Yesterday, Rose and I prepared the whole house for a thorough disinfection. while Lawrence and your mom were at Hoover Street. It went well, but the room in the house will constantly remind us how deeply we cared and loved your parents. Especially, I got to know your dad on a very deep level. Very kind, brilliant, principled, a very loving husband and father, a very good person. Dementia may have stolen the best of him these past months, but not his inner determination and wit, and will to live, and to check each and every day about Mrs. Chang. Mom, Dad would always say, although he really needed so much more help than you, this is me, adding a little bit, he'd say, I need 2 caregivers, 2 birds and 2 carriers. And the next sentence he would say, how come you're here? Take care of Mrs. Chang. Go take care of Mrs. Chang. And he would write us emails saying, how come no one's spending any time with Mom? And we'd say, Dad, because you need more help. And actually sometimes you have 3 caregivers. So that's my interjection. Very touching and kind of funny in a way. But Mom, so he was always concerned about you. And then continuing Leslie's moving and deep message, thank you. He never failed to appreciate us, all the work that we did for him when he felt good and rested. He has the soft gentleness of being grateful when he opens his eyes with a smile in the morning, ready to see his new set of caregivers arriving for the day. I have more to say. Thank you, Phyllis, and your family for this wonderful memory. It forever changed our lives. Your dad will always have that special spot in my heart. May he rest in peace and love. And there's a affectionate smiley face. Thank you so much. It means so much to us and to him.
Thank you both.
Yeah. We apologize for the times when he gave you all a hard time. He wasn't, he didn't know what he was doing. But I know that he truly appreciated you and had affection for each and every one of you. And Alan, if you want to say anything, of course, please. My father had probably about 10 copies of your address that he asked for. I know you were recycling your address because he kept saying, I gotta get your address, and we will mail you something. He wanted us to mail you something. So we'll keep one of your addresses, 1 copy. I want you all to feel so good about what you've done to make an elderly person's life so much, possible. It would have been impossible without you all. It would have been impossible. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you too. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have my answer?
Yes. We love you, Mrs. Chang.
If any of you would like to say anything, don't feel obliged to. And if you want to write something later at the celebration, you can. Certainly, we're going to look for you for some stories, new ones too, that maybe we don't even know.
Thanks, Joe. Well, do you want to say thanks to everyone for joining us. You cannot join us in person, so this is a poor substitute.
We can't be there with you, Mom.
Thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
Sending our love to
We love
you.
you. Mom.
Dad is in a good
We'll
place.
talk to you at home.
Dad's in a good place, Mom, okay? And then you have lots ahead of you with dancing, singing, guitar playing, flower arranging, walks, okay? Dad couldn't keep up with you, you're dancing anyhow, so, okay? You keep busy. Okay, Mom?
We'll talk to you at home, Mom.
Yeah.
Okay. Love to everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, bye. Love to you all.
Everyone. Ewan, thank you so much for coming up.
Thank you. So good to see you all. I never met after Phyllis. I never met anyone else.
Kind of you. You look great. Thank you,
Kyle, thank you.
Rose. Miss you all.
I miss you too, Phyllis.
Bye.
Take care,
Take care.
Phyllis.
You won't have to
Take
take
care,
care of me,
everybody.
apart from all my qualities of my father.